super special opportunity today. We are here with Brandon from Rags2Riches. He's on YouTube. You can find him. Man, he is the co-founder of the TEXAN Token, and we are about to get a chance to take a deeper dive. If you haven't seen our first video, we do have a video that breaks down the TEXAN Token, but today we have the expert here with us. We're going to get to go more into that. So we're super excited to have you on today. Hey, thank you for coming in, man.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I think you guys are one of the first people to actually do a video on TEXAN Token. So I want to thank you for that as well.
Oh man, it honestly makes me happy when we hear developers say that, because it lets us know it's like a confirmation that we're doing our job, man. So I was just so glad to see you guys out in Vegas and get a chance to connect with you, because I know it can be difficult, trying to connect online. So it was really good to be able to connect with you guys and get this thing set up.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Can't thank you enough, man. It's an honor.
Hey, so I guess just to jump things off, I'm kind of curious. We like to ask a lot of people we bring on, what's your background with crypto and what brought you in, man?
Yeah, so my background with crypto is I screwed everything up. That's my background, right? And so that's probably a story many people share. So back in 2014, I'm on Facebook, and one of my friends on Facebook kept shilling Bitcoin. And I just saw it for about 6 months straight. He's just like, you guys need to get in. So I think I ended up paying the guy like $100 to sit down with me and tell me everything about crypto, tell me about Bitcoin. And he did. And I got into it, but I forgot about it. And then I, fast forward to 2016, 2017, 2018. I had a friend who was a poker player, and he loved to gamble. And one of the things about him was he couldn't do something unless somebody else did it with him. So he's begging me, hey, dude, let's get into this Bitcoin thing. And I had forgotten that I had actually created a Coinbase account in 2014. So I go through the process. I go to the website and I go to set up my account, and it says there's already an account created with this username. And my heart dropped. I'm like, what? What is this? So it took me 4 or 5 days to actually get into the Coinbase account. And I purchased that Bitcoin. It had appreciated quite a bit since 2014. So then I took that and lost it all essentially over the next year or so. And a lot of people, that happens, they just kind of say, you know what, this crypto thing isn't for me. But when I was actually very ashamed of myself, and I took it upon myself to learn and try to figure out how to do it the right way. I purchased a bunch of Bitcoin miners as well because I thought I was smart, and just made a lot of mistakes. But fortunately, I learned the hard way, and I was able to find some resources to teach me to do it the right way. And I was able to snatch up a lot of cryptocurrency on fire sale at the bottom of 2018, 2019, and created a sizable portfolio and kind of got it right. Quite honestly, I was doing real estate at the time. I was able to take some of that money from real estate too to put it in the markets, and then I just started teaching folks how to do it. Never charged anybody for any of this information whatsoever. And I reluctantly, actually, my friends created a Telegram group for me and invited me to my own Telegram group and said, hey, start answering questions here. So we did that, built a little community up, and just, it's a journey, man. Crypto is huge, and you got to choose your path. You got to choose your journey, and I chose it. So that, in a nutshell, that's where I come from.
Man, your story is so interesting. It leads me to want to ask, like, when you first hopped into this thing, did you ever envision, or did you ever have any feeling like this was going to be something that was more for you? Like I'm going to create a token or something in the future. Was that something like that started way early on for you?
No, to be quite honest, it didn't even. So I'm the type of person. All right, let's take music for example. I back in the late 2000s. I would listen to music on the radio. I'm like, man, it would be really cool to learn how to do this. So I downloaded software called FL Studio, and then I spent inordinate amount of time on YouTube learning this software, and it's very complex. And I finally get to the point where I can take an idea in my head and put it on the screen with this software. It becomes an obsession. I wanted to learn how to do it, and I did. So I learned how to be, a very average or slightly below average music producer. And that has happened to me through different parts of my life, whether it's being a musician or whether it's trying to learn a language or whatever. So the idea to create a token, it passed through my mind a few times, I'd say probably starting after 2018, but it's so vast. The knowledge that you have to have is pretty vast. And it didn't really become a serious thought in my head until I met up with Matt, who's Crypto Heartbeat. He's the founder. I'm the co-founder of TEXAN Token. And we started having the discussion, and we had the resources, we had the knowledge, and there was an opportunity with Pulsechain to kind of go and carve out our little plot of land and create something that provides value to the world.
Well, I think you guys have done an awesome job, and we'll get into that here in just a second about more of that. The last thing I guess about the story I'd like to know is how did you link up with this guy? I mean, I'm understanding, how some of these things are starting to work out, but how did you meet up with Crypto Heartbeat?
Yeah, good question. So Crypto Heartbeat and I, Crypto Heartbeat was interviewing people that were involved in the Hex and Pulsechain ecosystem. And he emails me. He was like, "Hey, man, would you be interested? I'd love to interview you." And I responded back to him, "I'll only interview you if you shotgun a beer with me." And that's all I put. That's all I sent. So I like to do stuff like that to kind of filter through the people that I want to associate myself with and not. I wanted to see his reaction, and he responds back. He's like, "Bro, I'm down. Let's go." I said, "Okay, I like this guy." So we just started, streaming with each other and bringing guests on and just kind of chopping it back and forth on Twitter, this and that. And that's how I met him. And the TEXAN didn't really, come to fruition until about probably like a year later, because he had the idea. He had a developer kind of working on it, and he invited me to assist with that.
Well, that's excellent. And as a Texan myself, I can see how poignant of a marketing scheme that really is. You got 30 million people in Texas. There's a whole room for creating that economic energy. So we just want to start digging into the project a little bit.
Sure.
Chris, did you want to ask him any specific questions, or do we want to just get into just a quick rundown?
Yeah, so let's just start off. For not a lot of people who heard about TEXAN Token, and this is something that's gaining traction in the community. Could you kind of give us like a brief overview of what it is and what's the utility?
Yeah, so TEXAN Token it's going to be a PRC20. So we're used to ERC20. This is going to be a PRC20. So the blockchain is going to be Pulsechain. This token essentially gives people the ability to earn interest or yield, 5% annual base interest, 87% annual maximum interest if you stake it over the course of 22 years. So we do have a 22-year lockup period if people choose to do that. The total supply is going to be 100 trillion. 97% of that 100 trillion is going to be locked up in a contract that nobody has access to because the keys will be burned right at the beginning. This is deflationary, not fake deflationary, actual deflationary, by means of if people do end their stakes early. And we look at products like Hex, for example. I think there was over 4 billion Hex that was EES'd last year alone. So all of those penalties will be burned. They will not be redistributed to stakers. They will not be redistributed to an origin address or contract. They will be burned for everybody, which helps kind of create that scarcity model. We're going to have 3% of the supply that's actually going to be circulating. 1% of that is going to go to the team. 1% of that is going to go to the TNM, which is the Texas Nationalist Movement. And then 1% is going to go to folks who have donated to TEXAN. There are no admin keys. This is a completely immutable contract. and we did pay $35,000 to get the contract audited by CertiK. So in a quick overview, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay, really cool. So few questions. I want to start off with the stakes. So are they time lock stakes like Hex?
Yes, it's similar to Hex. So you do have the ability to take your liquid TEXAN token, and you can stake that for up to 22 years. People say, well, why 22 years? I'm sure we'll get into this in a second, but we're targeting communities, nonprofit communities with memberships of 100,000 people or more. And nonprofits are used to endowments where they lock their money up for 20 years, 30 years, or in some cases indefinitely. So we felt like the 22-year period would be a good way to be able to sit across the table from somebody in a nonprofit and speak their language. So yes, it is time locked.
Okay. This might be a dumb question, but is the TEXAN token a fork of Hex?
No, there's actually quite a few differences. So the two similarities that we share with Hex are the fact that it is time locked, and the reason that we made it that way, it's because you go to hexsearch.io and you can kind of sort through all of Richard Hart's videos. He said if he were going to make, if you were a brand new founder or co-founder, you were going to create a project, you would want to have it time locked. So we just took his advice. So we've got that. The second thing, I guess the second thing that we share is the fact that you can stake for yield as well. So beyond that, we have no T-share system. The T-share system, as you know, is just awesome with Hex. We have no good accounting system. That doesn't exist. Our early in-stake penalties are not redistributed to the OA and stakers. There's actually quite a few. We wanted to make this as simple as possible. Yep.
Yeah, looking at your website, I was talking to Chern about this a lot. How you guys lay out your information, I really enjoy because it has a simplistic manner because not everybody's a nerd in cryptocurrency and can pick up this stuff. So I think that's really cool. And the origin address, that was also a very interesting thing that you guys push forward with, because I know Richard gets grilled for that all the time. And, definitely burning the keys to a wallet that you don't have access to will definitely increase investor confidence. So, yeah, go ahead.
And, that we'll probably still get grilled for that. Here's why. You look across crypto, there's actually no trustless way to be able to take those keys and burn them from the start. So you actually have to trust our team that we're going to do that. Now, if you see one transaction that happens, after launch that can't be accounted for with our smart contract system, that we've lied to you. So there is that check and balance there. But we didn't want to have that liability, and we just wanted the smart contract to do its thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. One other thing I want to kind of ask you about. So the contract's immutable, which means, for those who don't know, it means it can't be changed. Do you see a downside to this for the TEXAN token going on to the future when it comes to the pace of cryptocurrency development?
That's a really good question. So let's take a look at Bitcoin, for example. I would say that there are major technological innovations that have occurred in the past 13 years that, in theory, if you ask me that same question, if I were the founder of Bitcoin at the very beginning, in theory, that should render Bitcoin somewhat obsolete. However, what you've seen is, due to adoption and people participating in Bitcoin, it hasn't gone away. So if this contract can remain secure, and if this contract gets market adoption, then I don't see this as something that will become obsolete, because ultimately this is a store of value. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Absolutely. And I know there's like a weirdness in Pulsechain and the Hex community when it comes to these store of value coins and these projects launching on Pulsechain. And how I see it with your TEXAN token is that the more projects we have on Pulsechain, the more deflationary Pulsechain becomes. And having these really cool marketable projects with really good store value mechanics can also enrich the community and also help out the Pulsechain token. So definitely kudos to your team to developing something very new and innovative outside of Hex.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was just gonna try to add to that, because Kris he commented on the simplicity of the website and the user friendliness of the website. And when I think about that, and then I pair that with the idea that this is the TEXAN token, it makes me want to know, like, especially after hearing, a lot of y'all's goals is to talk to nonprofits with a certain threshold. So it seems like there's a very clear direction that's happening here. Is there like further plans to create mass adoption of this token amongst Texans, because that is who it's going to stick out to the most? Is that like where the marketing is concentrated?
Good question. So here's the I guess you could call it the plan, right? So the TNM, the Texas Nationalist Movement, these are the folks that are solely focused on the independence of Texas. They see the federal government as an entity that has kind of overstepped its bounds, and through a very peaceful and political process, they would like to help Texans get to the voting booths and vote as to whether or not they believe Texas should be an independent nation. Now, these guys have been around since I think early 2000s. They have 435,000 members. So now you kind of see and understand the importance of what we're doing here. We are giving them a smart contract to allow them to tokenize their entire community. If you look at crypto projects that have done very well, let's take Hex, for example. There's a lot of duplicate addresses. Maybe I could guesstimate that Hex actually has 70,000 individual users. The Texas Nationalist Movement has 435,000. And not only that, a vast majority of those people are not involved in crypto. So the marketing plan is to take that community and onboard them into Texan, which subsequently onboards them into Pulsechain as well. And I would say that out of all the projects out there, I don't see a ceiling higher than what we have. Now, it's going to take work. It's going to take persistence. No coiners are very, very difficult to onboard because this, like we talked about, crypto is a confusing thing. But I think with the right amount of work, when we finally get a price chart and people start making money, they're going to start talking about it. Price chart's the best marketing tool out there. I think this project could do really, really huge things. But I'm under no disillusionment that it won't take work.
Well,
Right.
That's extremely insightful. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate you divulging that information.
Yeah, man.
So I actually have another question. So have you ever heard of the Free State Movement up in New Hampshire?
Yep, sure have.
Have you guys done any sort of collaboration with that community at all?
No, there's a couple movements across the United States that kind of mimic those as well. Our idea is that if once Texan becomes successful, we think that we'll be able to have conversations with those folks. But to answer your question, no, we've not contacted those folks.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, no, it's definitely really cool that you guys are backing a really great movement that I think a lot of people can identify with and get behind.
Yeah.
So my next question, and this one's it's an extreme hypothetical, but so when it comes to centralized exchanges, this is probably, in my opinion, the #1 onboarding process for all users. And what I've seen in the past is a lot of cryptocurrencies will just give these centralized exchanges these cryptos as a way to bring people into their blockchain ecosystem. if you were given the opportunity by Coinbase or some sort of centralized exchange to have your token on the exchange, and you basically give it to them as a way to onboard people, would you go that route, or would you try to force them to buy up the token and bring it onto their exchange?
I would force them to buy it. And
So
here's why. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would force them to buy it. And here's why. There's two reasons. If we take a look at the legacy finance system, anything that legacy finance touches, it destroys. It destroys the integrity. It destroys the principle. We've seen them use crypto as a giant pump and dump scheme over at least 2 cycles now. And we know that because we can actually track retail versus institutional on Coinbase going back to 2018. It was about 85% retail. And now, 3 years later, or so 4 years later, that's flipped. It's 85% institutional now. They're pushing the retail investor out. Nothing good can come from it. More regulation comes from interacting and touching legacy finance. And these exchanges are very, very tied to legacy finance. They're tied to the existing banking system. I want to create as many layers as I can away from that. Also, the other part is I don't want to give decentralized exchanges any leeway whatsoever, because ultimately they screw everybody. They screw everybody with trading fees. They screw everybody by not giving them complete autonomy over their money. It's a custodial agreement. You know, people don't even own their own tokens, and they don't really disclose that except in the fine print 70 pages down when you sign up. So I'm not a friend of centralized exchanges. If they want to play ball, then they're going to have to do what everybody else does, in my opinion. Now, I'm one half of the equation. The founder, Crypto Heartbeat, he might have a different opinion, but that is my opinion alone.
Absolutely. I think what centralized exchanges are doing is it's terrible. And I think the one person I do not like is Sam Bankman-Friedman, especially what he's doing with the bit licensing and trying to basically destroy every decentralized exchange for American users to access. But I do feel like some of these project developers would do that at the opportunity, but it's just great to hear that you're not going to do that. So
yeah, it's horrible. I am all about longevity, and I don't believe a centralized exchange provides more longevity, and it's certainly not partnering up with them in any significant way.
Right. So next question. I want to get in a little bit about CBDCs. I've watched a lot of your videos, and you're very you dive a lot into politics, which is really cool, and you're not afraid to express your opinion. So when it comes to CBDCs, for those who don't know what those are central bank digital currencies, and it's something that all the Federal Reserves and centralized banking systems at every country have done research on, but it turns out they already have the technology to roll out. In your opinion, do you think TEXAN Token will be able to compete with CBDCs and offer a alternative solution to retail investors?
Yeah, here's why the government wants to get involved in CBDCs. It's because they can't, or they don't want to, they shouldn't destroy crypto at large. They can destroy crypto at large by taking away the on-ramps and off-ramps. It would hurt the industry. So what they do, and I say this a lot, for a regular person to make money, what do they have to do? Most people trade their labor for dollars, okay? For a company to make money, a company trades its goods and services for dollars. What does a government do to make money? They do one of two things. They tax the shit out of it, or they inflate it, right? And they just print money out of thin air to pay for things. So what the government sees with crypto is a massive opportunity at taxation, because that's the way they get income. So they don't want to destroy it. They say, oh, this is a gold mine here. There's billions and billions. The total crypto market caps, last cycle over $1 trillion, 2 trillion, 2.3. So what they're going to do, they know that in DeFi, stable coins account for almost 80% of volume. People can risk off, right? So they can sell their shit. They can go to bed at night and wake up and know they're going to have the same amount of money that they went to bed with. They know the 80%. So what are they going to do? And I talked about this about a year and a half ago. They want to invalidate and they want to destroy the reputations of existing stablecoin holders so they can provide the solution, which is the government loves to do that. They provide the solution. Look at this CBDC. The CBDC is better than Tether. The CBDC is better than USDL. The CBDC is better than USDC because it's backed. You can't lose your money. And oh yeah, by the way, if you join this new centralized exchange that the government created and you download our wallet, that's going to allow us to track everything about you, where you send your money, how you send your money, all that. Guess what? We're going to give you an extra bonus too. So I think the CBDC is an absolute nightmare for regular people. And we can go into a little bit further detail as to why. But I think the government is using the CBDC as an additional means of income for the government.
Absolutely, and it's so strange to see how, you know, the same people causing the problem are offering the solution. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely agree with you 100%. And so another thing I want to ask you about CBDC. So we have China rolling out the digital yuan, and then we have the US trying to roll out the CBDC, and it seems like it's kind of a race. And so in your opinion, do you think the US should still roll out CBDC in order to compete with China? Because regardless, China's going to roll out the digital yen, or the yuan, which is going to be pretty detrimental to the financial system. And I think the US needs to roll out the CBDC to maintain their hold as the global reserve currency.
Yeah, you know, if you look at the past 20 years, I don't know the exact numbers. I would say the total global reserve currency held in US dollars is something right near 50%. So for 20 or 30 years, China has gone on an absolute tear in terms of their economy. I mean, they're killing it, frankly. However, when you look at this past 20 or 30 years, what's the difference in total global currency, reserve currency? The yuan has accounted for maybe an extra 4% in 30 years. They've taken 4% of the market share of the United States. So for the Chinese government to do that, you know, I don't think that it's going to make a major impact, because most of the blockchain technologies kind of exist in the States as well. So we have a monopoly over the technology and the goods and services. And ultimately, too, China, you know, we have a very codependent relationship where we buy a lot of their stuff and they sell a lot of their stuff to us. So I think that that, coupled with the fact that China's population is absolutely dying right now because the fallout from the one-child policy that they stopped, I think, in 2016, they have a dying population, and this population relies very heavily upon manufacturing. So I think that, you know, regardless of what they do with their CBDC, I think ultimately, in terms of goods and services, they're dealing with a whole lot more difficult issues here. And the United States just has a stranglehold on the total global reserve currency. And we've seen over the 30 years, regardless of how well China did, it didn't make a massive dent in that.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this stuff rolls out. But in my opinion, I think people are going to go with, like, you know, DeFi projects that have no direct centralization. So cool. So I want to move on and talk to you a little bit about the Pulsechain.
Yeah.
So why did TEXAN Token choose to launch on the Pulsechain? Why didn't they do something like Binance Smart Chain or another blockchain?
Yeah, it's because Matt and I realized the community that made us who we are. We didn't make this community. This community made us. We understand that. So, you know, our idea is we want to show loyalty to Pulsechain. We want to be one of those projects where in 5 years you can say, yeah, we were a Genesis project. We didn't launch anywhere else except on Pulsechain. We could have launched this on Ethereum. We could have launched this on Binance Smart Chain back in July 4th, actually. We came out, everything was complete. So we could have done that. So we've been waiting with everybody else as a sign of, like, our solidarity with everybody else in terms of waiting for Pulsechain. Now, is that set in stone? No, we have business interests just like everybody else does. So if it comes to a point where it's just, hey, listen, we've got to launch somewhere, we will. But the fact that we've waited this entire time. When we were ready to launch July 4th, we hope that shows the community that we care about the community, and we're very excited about Pulsechain.
Absolutely. I think with the upcoming Pulsechain launch, this is something that people are very impatient about, and it's crazy how Richard posted something about them possibly launching a couple months ago, and then he got completely destroyed on Twitter.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Go
I feel sorry for him, man, because things do change, and we see all the layer ones that are just breaking around us and fracturing around us. Solana, Avalanche, Polygon. And I just don't want to be one of those people that has a track record like Solana. It's been down 32 times in the past 24 months, like where they've had to stop validators. And the simple fact that they can stop validators and change things like that should scare the shit out of everybody. So I'm okay with doing things the right way. I'm okay with, for example, Binance BSC just got hacked for 500 million. And a majority of the code that we were using prior to, I think, May was code from Binance Smart Chain. So they probably are learning a lot of lessons right now. They probably learned a lot of lessons during the ETH2 merge. And I just want it to be right. And I don't want it to have to change after launch. So I'm okay with being patient, and it sucks. It really sucks for him. I can't imagine the pressure that he feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great response. That's a really good response, and I think it shines a real good light on Pulsechain and how it's going to be different than some of these other things. Like, I think it's so important to point out all of these things that are happening with these other blockchains right now. And also mention, that you have the patience to wait for it to be right. I just think that's very well spoken, and it speaks highly of your team, the way you guys have your mindset. It's pretty awesome to know that you guys have faith in it. You're standing in solidarity, because we're in the same boat. We're
Right.
just like, we don't care how long it takes. We just know it's going to launch, and when it does, it's going to solve a lot of issues. So it's good to know other people feel that way.
Absolutely.
So, kind of just building off of that, and so Pulsechain, we're basically forking the entire Ethereum network. Do you believe TEXAN Token is at an extreme disadvantage when it comes to community outreach and onboarding new users by launching the Pulsechain versus the Ethereum blockchain?
No, and here's why. It's because the people that we're targeting are people that have never had exposure to crypto. So we can literally tell them what to do. Now, if you have somebody who's entrenched in their ways and they're only used to Ethereum and they've never had a need to change the network setting at MetaMask, yeah, there's going to be resistance there. But we're starting off at absolute ground zero with these people. I told my team the other day, I said, listen, I don't want a community full of Hexkins. Everybody gasped. Everybody paused and froze. They're like, what do you mean? I said, that's not what this is about. This isn't about milking existing community members. This is about the Holy Grail, which is people who've never been involved in crypto. Did a poll on my Twitter. I asked people, I said, how many projects do you hold personally? And I said 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, 8+. And something like 75% of respondents said that they own 5 or more projects. Now, if I think about that, and I think about the monetary energy that's tied up in that, wouldn't it be very advantageous if we looked at people, no coiners, and we said, hey, all that financial energy hasn't been tapped yet. We can bring that onto TEXAN and Pulsechain. So I think overall we're not at an advantage. I think that a disadvantage. The advantages far outweigh the disadvantages right now. And one thing in management or life or whatever, sometimes you don't want to do business with somebody who's been doing it for 20 years if you want it done your way. So you can onboard these folks and be the first information that pops in their head about crypto.
Absolutely. So what are your overall thoughts of the gatekeeping that's going on in the Pulsechain community?
A little bit more specific. So when you say gatekeeping, give me just a rough example.
So a rough example, there's maxis. I only buy Hex. I only buy Pulse. I only buy PulseX.
Mm-hmm.
What are your, So here's a great example. So me and Trent, one of our first projects was actually buying into Hex. I think Trent was a day one Hexagon.
Awesome.
That was my fifth project I invested in. And so we started going across the, different communities, and we started covering projects. The great ones like the Ammo Farm. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but basically it's a DeFi protocol where you can take like Chainlink, BNB, and your crypto assets and lend them out to PancakeSwap and earn passive income while you hold those currencies. And by us covering those projects in combination with Pulsechain projects, we get a nice merge of the community between the Ammo Farm community and the Hex community. So I just was curious. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so are you tying that back to like, are you saying that people thought bad of that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, people thought bad of that, and a lot of these maxis are staying in like an echo chamber with Hex and whatnot, and not trying to outreach to other communities.
Yeah, this is a lot of people want to sum this up with a very simple answer, but this is actually a complex issue because you got to understand where these people are coming from. And most of the people I think in the Hex community came from crypto, and the entire point of crypto outside of Hex in RH ecosystem is to take money from your pocket, redistribute it to their pocket with no real value, right? So there's a lot of people that are burnt. They got PTSD. So when they find Hex and they get the gains from Hex, it's much easier to say, you know what, I'm going to go all in on Hex, screw the rest of everything else. I don't need anything else. You shouldn't need anything else either. So let's just do the safe play here and let's stay with Hex or let's stay with any RH product. I get that. I understand the mentality. I get that, right? However, I will also say this. It's not however. That's also a really good feature of our community. We have an incredible immune system. All of these people that are constantly vetting other projects and trying to help people avoid scams, that's very, very powerful. It doesn't exist anywhere else in crypto like it exists with us. So it actually does help and save people. So I'm not going to really knock the mentality. I'm not going to knock it because I understand it. On the flip side, it makes it very, very difficult for people with ideas to come to market because they get chewed up and spit out. We launched on July 4th. Within 3 hours, I had a wanted poster with my face on it calling me a furu and saying that I needed to come answer questions to the community. That happened with 4 hours. So people see that, they're like, well, screw that. I don't want to be a founder. I don't want to be a co-founder, this and that. I get it. I understand. People are going to have to make the mental shift of living in a layer 2 world. Now we're moving to a layer 1 world, right? There's going to be a lot of projects out there. It's going to be a very difficult transition for people, especially people who have made good money with Hex. So I say personally, to practice patience and empathy with these people. I can take arrows from these people because I understand that in 5 years' time, it's going to be completely different. And I feel bad for them, but I also understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely. I think to kind of further that, I agree with everything you said, but also when it comes to cryptocurrency, I think all of us are on the same team, if you think about it, against legacy banking. So I think Hex is a great product. I think there's potential like projects with Binance Smart Chain. I think almost every single, not every single, but a vast majority of cryptocurrency projects have good intentions. And I'm not talking about like the rug pulls and the shit coins and whatnot like that. But I feel like, when it comes to, the gatekeeping, I'm not a big fan of it. I think Pulsechain should be a little bit more welcoming, especially trying to pull like Decentralized over to the Pulsechain, or maybe try to get a Uniswap function over onto the Pulsechain and try to keep being this place as a way where we can bring in new users and also be scalable for the Ethereum blockchain once the next bull market comes around and they have issues with like gas fees. So
yeah, I agree. Like right now, if you think about this in terms of a country, you've got one state, and that's Hex. It's really how they look at things. You had two other states, 3 other states introduced. But when Pulsechain comes out, now we're a country. We've got many, many, many states, and you're going to see this community. I don't want to say, it's going to kind of fracture out into different factions, That's just what's going to happen. So that's going to happen naturally. People aren't going to be able to stop it. And the neat thing is, though, each one of those factions, they live and die by their own merit. So if you have a bunch of people that are involved in certain types of projects and those projects go to shit, ultimately it's the market that decided if those projects went to shit or not. And people can decide whether or not to go play ball over there or play ball over here where people are making gains and they're safe. I'm a big proponent of those free market principles, not only with crypto, but just thinking in general. Should give people the option to be able to try things out, and their decisions have consequences, both good and bad.
Right, definitely. Cool, man. So I actually have one last question for you, and it has to do with the proof of work and proof of stake. And I want to see your opinion on this debate. So Ethereum just went to 2.0 and switched over to a proof of stake system, and then Pulsechain is going to be proof of stake. In your opinion, do you think proof of work is better or proof of stake is better based off of decentralization and the incentive for whale wallets? And what I mean by incentive for whale wallets, basically with proof of stake, there's some concern that if you have a whale go into a validator and start earning some rewards off of the fees, if they have a large percentage of tokens, they'll earn majority of the fees. And it seems like it's incentivizing larger wallet holders in comparison to retail wallet holders.
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's look at ETH 2.0 right now. What's the big problem here that nobody's talking about? You've got like 4 validators that are validating all the blocks. So that's an issue, you know. What's the problem with the ETH proof of work fork that just happened? It's got shit hash power, right? So it's very open to attack in that way. The thing that, do I think one is better than the other? Well, the narrative out there is that it fights climate change and it fights pollution and this or that. I've been on record very vocal saying that does not matter. I don't believe that humans have a massive impact on that. And I think that what happened, what you saw with Bitcoin, was a lot of these centralized folks, a lot of these statists, a lot of these collectivists, the socialists out there, they're trying to find a way to attack cryptocurrency, so they use climate change, just like they're using climate change to weaponize against every other thing they don't like. And what you saw Ethereum do is they fought back by saying, okay, we're just going to spend all this money and all these resources to fight climate change. We're going to change this to a proof of stake system. I think it's BS. Okay, whatever. We're there now. What ultimately matters? Ultimately, what matters is adoption and also security on the chain. What's going to bring the most adoption, the most security, and actually the least centralization? You know, proof of work has its merits. It really does have its merits. Proof of stake can work as well, but right now with ETH 2.0, it is not very decentralized in terms of the people who have control over that network. So I think Google's actually thinking about being one of the validators, if not one of the validators right now. That's interesting too. So to answer your question, it just depends on the security, depends on the decentralization. And right now we just have a hash race. We have a security race to see who gets to the top. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I love about the Pulsechain launch is to see how the community and this blockchain responds in comparison to what's going on with Ethereum right now. Because my biggest fear is, even though this projects are supposedly decentralized, these big corporations come in and they create some sort of centralization that can be detrimental to the cryptocurrency movement. So,
well, everything, the networks are decentralized, but every other aspect of cryptocurrency, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings that look at this, it's not decentralized at all. The people who run these networks, the people who have the money to be able to move the market up or down, it's extremely centralized in that way, including, hey, guess what? Bitcoin fans, including your beloved Bitcoin. You guys might actually be the worst because you have billionaires and nation states and governments and institutions that are moving that market like crazy. Retail doesn't matter anymore. It's not a peer-to-peer digital cash system. It's a store of value for extremely rich people that they don't even see that as a reliable hedge against the market dumping. They pump and dump this quite a bit now. So Crypto is very centralized, and that's a sad part of it, but that's the truth that not many people are willing to say. Apart from the network, which can be decentralized, everything else, liquidity, centralized exchanges owning most of the major top 20 projects, this and that.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey Trent, that's it for my questions. Do you have any questions, man?
Man, that about covers it for me today. I think we've given a lot of good information for some viewers in a good amount of time, and I just want to circle back to basically talking about kind of the maximalist thing, and just want to just appreciate you for you're doing what you've done and your part of educating people, because that's what I think it comes down to, is you have people that are maximalists and they want to shill, but they don't understand the role of the educator in the cryptocurrency space and how difficult of a job it is to do what we're doing. So I just want to give you kudos, say thank you so much for coming on and just spitting a little bit of your knowledge and opinions and things like that for us, man. We love that. We love the transparency, the candidness, and I just want to say keep fighting the good fight, man, because I see what you're doing with targeting the right people, and in Texas specifically. I think that that's such a great way to go about it, and I just wish the best for your project and hope you guys can onboard as many non-crypto users. As you said, the holy grail. That's kind of where we live. We want to get people that aren't just in one ecosystem. We want people that maybe just got their feet wet or don't understand it to be able to come and have a place that they can learn more about these kind of concepts. So thanks so much for all the work that you're doing in the ecosystem. And again, thank you for meeting up and coming on to the stream today with us.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you guys know this, but I did an 7-city tour in 9 nights in Texas. I just got done yesterday. So I went to Dallas, and I went to Houston, and I went to New Braunfels, I went to Corpus Christi, and I went to San Antonio. I went to all these places, and to be able to meet up with these people that we're trying to talk to and market with. And I'm just going to say this: Texas is a damn special place. And I can sit here and say that. Let me explain to you what I'm saying. There's a feeling, there's an energy that is completely intangible. And I think it is the feeling and energy of what liberty actually is. When you have less government control, people are much happier. I swear, I was on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. It's like 10:30 at night, and I'm on one of the little bridges that go over the river. And I hear this happy music like coming out of a boombox, and it was moving towards me, and I turn around, and there's this father. He's got a boombox strapped to his back. He's got his kids behind him who are like 7 or 9 years old, and they're dancing around, they're hopping up the steps, they're excited, they're fist pumping, and it looked like something straight out of a freaking movie, man. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night, people on the Riverwalk, people are so happy, there's kids dancing in the streets, there's a father with a boombox. It looked like an Apple commercial or something. So what is going on here? But everybody respects each other. There's all sorts of diversity. You don't have this liberal progressive BS that permeates through the rest of society. And I made up my mind right there. I said, Texas, that feeling is worth fighting for. And that's why we are involved with the TNM, because they fight for that. They want that to propagate throughout the world. So that's why we're doing what we're doing right there. It's that feeling, it's that independence that you can only find out if you go there. And I'd just like to thank you guys for bringing me on. We've got about one more day left, October 15th at midnight. You can go to texan.cc. We announced yesterday that we are going to give everybody, for every $1 that you donate to the TNM, we're going to give you 100,000 TEXAN token. So 100,000 TEXAN token. The reason for that is that we had a bear market. We had a lot of token planned out for people based on what we thought the contributions might be. Bear market hit, that kind of crashed. But we think the best people to carry this project forward are the people that believed in us at the very beginning. So that also goes for any donations previously too. We're going to give everybody 100,000 to 1. And we're going to put those tokens in the hands of people that care. So thank you guys so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And being a Texan myself, man, I know exactly what you're saying about that feeling. And I think that just that alone, man, it can be responsible for a huge success for you guys. So again, wish you all the best. And again, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, buddy.